Alright, here we are guys. Welcome back to another update of my Brandenburg into Prussian game. And I've wanted to show you guys here again a little bit different. We're not starting in the timeline because the Enlightenment has spawned in the year 1700 and it has actually spawned in my country, so that is pretty cool. If we have a look, it spawned in Hamburg. Now, we did get manufactories, which I would have been like extremely ripped off. I would have felt robbed if I didn't get manufactories because I had them everywhere. Uh, I think the way that manufactories works is it just spawns in the nation that has the most manufactories. That's my understanding. Now, we didn't get a printing press. Actually, Britain got both colonialism and the printing press. And I was pretty upset about the fact that we didn't get printing press because I was expanding so rapidly that there really weren't that many Protestant nations around. So we got unlucky there. But either way, we did get the Enlightenment, which resulted in two. And of course, it's pretty nice getting them because the province that actually where it spawns, it becomes automatically present. That's obviously significant, but also you get 100 to each monarch point, and even the 20 prestige is going to be actually worthwhile for me here, as usually my prestige is capped, but for some reason it's not capped out at 100 here. So nice spawning of the Enlightenment there, and it's going to make us accepting that Enlightenment that much easier. We'll probably be the first nation to do that, I imagine. Now, as you can see, since my previous game, I have expanded massively into Italy. We have the occupation of Rome, which is really cool, giving us that yearly prestige and additional missionary. I've expanded massively into France. I mean, we almost have the entire French region with the exception of Provence, who owns Brittany. I almost have the entirety of the Italian region with the exception of these islands, most of which are cheap, although the Sicilian provinces are fairly highly developed, moderate, I would say. And Nice, where Savoy remains here in northern Italy, I suppose. Pretty cool stuff. I did just actually, my most recent war was a war into Britain, but as you can see here, guys, not only has Scandinavia formed via Denmark, I PU'd them. Fantastic. So it actually didn't go down how I would have expected. They had the weak claim, if you imagine, but it was they had a regent in control of the throne, and their heir was my dynasty. So I wasn't able to claim their throne because the ruler was not my dynasty. Pretty awkward scenario. But I was thinking when the regent, or the heir rather, came of age, if he didn't have another heir already established, I would just boom go in instantly. And that was not the case. It was not the case. He did have an heir who was 0 years old, like a younger brother or something, I suppose, or his son. But regardless, I wasn't able to get the opportunity. So there was basically like a 15-year-old ruler, 0-year-old heir. The heir had a strong claim, so I was thinking, might not be able to get that PU. Maybe I would down the line if I was lucky, but it would be, quite some time away. And just randomly, I mean, the disputed successions has been, the tab was there, and I just randomly looked over. He didn't have an heir, so I went in. That was about 12 years after that point. So I was just lucky. I guess his heir died to a hunting accident or something. Speaking of rulers, though, we have another queen. And this queen's upsetting me because her stats are not good. So as you can see here, my heir, he's 24 years old, and I thought he was going to come of age when he was, 15. But it's been 9 years. I mean, even he is not that good. He's pretty good, better than her, that's for sure. But he's not that good himself. And I'm really looking forward to her dying. I think I can abdicate her pretty soon because she's ruled for like a long time, 20 years almost. But we've obviously expanded into Russia. Also, Russia actually attacked Denmark when I broke my, alliance and guarantee over him. But after PUing Scandinavia, I did a reconquest war. We've taken multiple wars against Russia. I've taken wars against the Ottomans. I've taken wars against the nation who was here, like, I don't know how to pronounce them. They are this nation. I won't even try pronounce them, as well as Tabaristan. And yeah, not much has changed at all in terms of culture. If we look at our states, I have actually integrated Hungary, and I did end up stating the major region here because, like I suspected, it was one of the highest available, with Pest being at 27 rather. And yeah, it doesn't cost me admin points. So as you can see here, I have more territories available still. I did end up using them, but we get some from technology. We have 4 available. But I'm actually in a position where I have my admin being focused, and I'm literally expanding as rapidly as I possibly can, basically. I'm really looking forward to the next war against the Spanish. That's going to be nice and satisfying. He's pretty much the largest European remaining, I guess, unless you consider Russia to be a European. But the both the Ottomans and Russians have become invalid rivals, and it is now just Ming. And in fact, he actually became invalid. He was fighting with Buryatia for some reason, this gigantic nation. This guy's doing really well here in the north. But then he managed to reaffirm him somehow as a tributary state and became a valid rival once again. Definitely interesting there. Now, for anybody who thinks I fully annexed France, I actually didn't fully annex them. I didn't have the range to take some of these. I basically didn't have the range to take this, but then I did end up teching up. The last tech, if we have a look here, 23, gives you the colonial range. So that gave me range to take that. But he actually has colonies, you know, it's standard stuff. He's making colonies here and around the place, which meant it wouldn't have been a full annexation. I didn't have the colonial range. And I've been thinking about this game in general, like I'm really enjoying this game and it's epic, but I just got off running a 1 tag, you know, and I don't really feel like doing the same thing. There is a concern, obviously, that if we didn't fully annex France, then he will basically lose to his subjects, and his subjects will become independent, which just makes them a little bit more, you know, hard to deal with because you don't inherit them freely when you annex France. But quite frankly, I actually don't care. I'm just having fun with it, and the reality is, based off of my previous German games, I'm about 100 years ahead of schedule. And I'm pretty confident that, you know, the PUs have definitely helped. Don't get me wrong, I've had good luck. But I'm confident with this kind of strategy of just going ham-bone crazy, fighting the coalitions like they don't exist, is really strong. And I think I could recreate this. You know, it depends to what extent. But I highly recommend that you guys play like aggressively. And, yep, my absolutism is over 100. That's another thing I really like, man. Having played, you know, I'm still learning, guys. I don't have that much experience in this patch, believe it or not. And once you get 100 absolutism, you get that admin efficiency capped out at 40%. And that's something that I have kind of learned here. If you have over 100 absolutism, you can actually do things like reduce your war exhaustion and boost autonomy. Say you go way over 100 overextension, and then you get the negative events of like a rebel bastion or whatever for like plus 15 unrest. You can just boost the autonomy in that province, which you know, helps alleviate that unrest, reducing your absolutism. But during the age of absolutism, you gain 1 yearly, and yeah, that's a luxury that I didn't have when I was playing my Hungarian game, because I had no experience in the Mandate of Heaven in my Hungarian game, and I was actually worried about fighting a, you know, disaster that I had never experienced before. Now, you are able to reach that cap even without the, you know, court and country disaster by basically having high legitimacy and everything, and then finally the golden era. But the issue is, because the golden era gives you 5 maximum absolutism, but the issue is, if you're in that scenario, you're stressing about the amount that your legitimacy gives you absolutism. Every time your legitimacy drops, like you take a royal marriage for -5, your absolutism drops. And the only way you can boost it is, you know, spending military power or whatever. Or decreasing autonomy, I think. Yeah, I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. Regardless, the point is when you've overkilled it like this, you don't have to stress so much about it, and I definitely like that. Religion, you can see here, guys, I have enforced my religion on Scandinavia. As far as limiteds are, absolutely no problem. He's maxed out at 200 relations, and I can actually begin integrating him 25 years. So we PU'd him 25 years ago. But that's just fantastic because I'm not going to be doing that much expanding via my diplomacy. That gives us something to spend our diplomatic points on here, as I am becoming increasingly starved for my admin points. Speaking of admin, like, I actually think, guys, that we haven't expanded that much, since the last update. This is probably the slowest. I mean, it's a lot of land, but it just doesn't look the most crazy in the last 50 years. But the thing is, I've been expanding as much as I can, spending my admin points. I actually haven't taken admin ideas and gotten the adaptability negative 25% yet. I'm just doing things a little bit differently. I was really far ahead in military points, and I just felt like taking defensive while I was really far ahead in military points and, starving on admin. But the advantage of doing it this way is that I am going to get this 23 admin tech sooner. And for that reason, I'm actually not going to be expanding, in the next few years, because I'm going to take this tech for negative 10%, which also gives you development efficiency 20%, 10% rather, which is pretty cool because my development's really high. And really looking for that admin efficiency, so I'm not going to be expanding until I take that. And then it's just going to be continuing to take big swaths of land as much as my admin points can afford. So I'm wondering, what else should we show you guys? It's not going to take me long to accept the Enlightenment. I was about to say manufacturers. Not too long. Kind of similar scenario to the Renaissance in the beginning of the game. The fact that we've got it in Hamburg here is giving these some decent gain per month. But I think I will be doing some development boosting as well. So why don't we take a look at development. I've been doing a crazy amount of development, guys, but like I said, it actually doesn't appear to be that much. I'm not going to go too crazy on it, but this province, for example, is at 32, 25, 26. Doing my best to really make do good by Europe, guys, and develop it up. A lot of them are around 20 to 25, which is pretty cool in my opinion. I would really like to state up, especially Germany here, like connect our land and state up some more of Germany where we're missing out on things. Some of these states are really good, man, in terms of resources as well. Like this one, Lorraine, is really good with the iron, 2 iron provinces and cloth, and it's all high development. But like I said, I'd rather just expand with my admin than I would state those up. I can state some Hungarian or old Hungarian things up, but the value on that case is just not so good. So I'm chilling. As far as my overall goal, guys, that's what I was about to say earlier. I'm not going for like anything crazy. I'm just trying to have fun, and I'm really enjoying this game. It's going to be interesting to see how casually I can just absolutely own the whole world. My manpower dropped pretty crazy when I was fighting some epic wars, but it's back up to 165, which is pretty cool. I'm currently rocking 4 stacks of around between 41 and 44k. And if we look at our economy here, I'm literally at the point where I'm making more money than I know what to do with, which is a pretty impressive place to be nowadays because of all the different various things you can build. But I've built so much all over the place. If we take at universities here, well, with the exception of Italy, which we just recently conquered, you can see the provinces that I've built universities on, and these are the provinces that I've primarily been developing myself because they give the development reduction cost. When I go ahead and develop a province, I switch out my religious thing here to the 10% reduced development cost, and then in the area that it actually is, like in this area, Mecklenburg, I take the edict of reduced local development cost, And I've already built universities there preemptively, which is negative 20%. So we get 40% reduction, and that's how I'm able to spend some of my monarch points when we're doing too well. But if we look at training fields, which is something I typically don't go too crazy on, like I don't prioritize very high, you can see that we have a tremendous amount of training fields and more. See, London, I just recently removed a fort there, and that's why that is available. But yeah, many of these are not so hot now, and for that reason I haven't been prioritizing them so much. I am usually interested in building shipyards, which we also have a lot of. A little bit reserved there as well, because soon I will get the grand shipyard, and it's better to just build one if you can. But regardless, I mean, cathedrals are all over the place, and we're getting to a point where they're giving a 0.08, not that much time remaining in the game, so I'm not that crazy on 0.08. Counting houses I haven't quite unlocked yet myself. It's Scandinavia there who has the technology. But we can see Warsaw gives over a ducat a month, like if we build that. The same with Paris, and a lot are really close. So I'm looking forward to building some counting houses when we can. But yeah, our economy is just absolutely crazy, guys. You know you're doing good if your production is significantly higher than your taxation. I mean, if you're blobbing out and expanding, your taxation's always going to be good, right? It's going to get higher and higher. But if you're keeping your production ahead of that, that's pretty impressive. And in our case, our trade is just absolutely smoking with 252 ducats a month from trade. If we look at trade here, I have 90% of the English Channel, 97% of 9.2 ducats. Now I'm actually not, even though we have 61% control in Lubeck, I don't even have a merchant there. Thankfully, I think, I'm not an expert on trade, guys, but the thing is, Scandinavia is the only nation who actually collects there, and he is our subject. So I think that is the reason that we do get a lot of wealth trickling through. But the reason I actually don't have anybody collecting, we only have 3 merchants available, is because of our recent dominance over Constantinople. There is a massive amount of wealth here as well, and what I realized is if I transfer it to Ragusa, we don't need a merchant to transfer to Ragusa, or to Venice, for example, in Ragusa, because the wealth is either going to go into Germany, which ultimately it all ends up in the English Channel, with the exception of Champagne. However, Champagne goes either to the English Channel or Genoa, and this is where I've been focusing my efforts. Now we can see here that it does all currently go to Genoa because of other nations' control, such as Spain. But I am collecting in Venice, which we get 100% of 12.6, and I am collecting in Genoa, which we get 39%. And this is actually where I've been spending some of my money here, because we've had so much I don't know what to do with it. I'm going to max out, we've got plenty of sailors, a lot of trade ships, and put them into Genoa because it's currently the wealthiest trade node, and we can collect without even having to do anything. But the thing is, of course, next time I smash Spain, I mean, we are currently the most influential nation in Genoa. It's just that when you collect there, it goes down by 50%. But when we next smash Spain and take over, the Eastern Iberian front, I mean, we're basically going to get all of it. I should be able to annex all of the Genoan trading region that he actually has, which will move his collection to Sevilla. I don't know how to say that either. Sevilla. And we'll basically have supreme control, especially if we get rid of Provence and Savoy. So trade is doing really well, and that is why, of course, we have a merchant in Constantinople, because if I wasn't pulling this out, the only other person who has influence is the Ottomans, so it would all stay there. So pretty happy with my merchant setup at the moment. But that's it. I think that constitutes an update. People were talking about show me the rest of the world. Pretty typical stuff here. We got an Indian power. It's actually Bengal this time. Huge Bengali India there. And Portugal is in Australia. I mean, the rest you can see for yourself. I'm looking forward to, because we're going to be integrating Scandinavia, I'm going to do some colonial client state activity. which is something I typically don't do that much. So we'll see how it ends up, but I'm kind of thinking about a West African, an East African, and an Indian, and we'll give India like a lot of like Pakistan, like Afghanistan, that kind of area, and that's where we will have like a border with them, and then we might do one gigantic East Asian. And if we're not going for the New World, which I kind of said like I wouldn't really bother to do, we could probably maintain the whole, like, split everything up and just have one super mega Europe. I do definitely want North Africa, though, just for making the Mediterranean Sea one single lake within our European empire. On that note, I just want to say, guys, that I could have already formed Germany, as you can see, and I actually haven't, and it pains me. It really pains me in my heart to not form Germany, but unfortunately it's one of those it's almost like a paradox oversight. In some ways, some of these forming nations have like old redundant mechanics to do with, cultural unions, but now cultural unions can be obtained just by getting empire government rank. So in that sense, Germany is like not as prestigious as it used to be, although there used to be no harm in forming Germany, and I would prefer to be Germany myself than Prussia, even though I think Prussia is pretty much just as badass. There is harm, apparently. I was informed by my guys in chat that in the Age of Revolutions, you get a unique bonus for being Prussia, and it makes me want to freaking kill myself. You don't get it as the German tag, even if you have like Prussian ideas. Definitely a bit of a kind of oversight there, so that's really dumb. So I'm going to maintain myself as Prussia for pretty much the entire game until the end of the game, where I'm going to form Germany, probably in the final last update. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and thanks for watching. Looking forward to integrating Scandinavia, man. It's going to be cool, and conquering the rest of the world and making some epic client states.